Hey, what's going on, everybody? Please excuse just the setup in my room right now. It's made to look really good in front of like my laptop cameras for remote work, but outside of that, everything is just kind of all over the place. But I really wanted to make this and talk a lot about Iron Man VR, bro. This game was just like outstanding. That's why it's so informal. I don't care about the background in this video, but like definitely let me know if you care, and if that's the case, I'll go ahead and change it. But my plan and when I put this up, and hopefully it's the same when you're listening to this, is to have like gameplay on the screen and just like me in the corner. So like this way you're not staring at me the whole time, and also not being bothered by the bed and all the weird stuff in the background. But yeah, with that in mind, let's go ahead and get started. This is just like it's not so much a review per se. It's just like my initial thoughts and impressions on Iron Man VR, because like this was a game that was kind of weird. I was like looking forward to it, but not really, because it's VR. Like it's a whole game in VR. Damn it, like. I get motion sickness from like 30 minutes to an hour in VR. So for me, I was like, yeah, I wasn't too excited. I've loved VR. I think it was cool, but I don't think it's the next. It is not the next step in gaming. Like we're not at that point. Like it's not even comfortable. Like PSVR is probably the most comfortable headset out of all of them. But like, you still have a wire around you. Like just the wire alone should be a reason as to why this should not continue into the PS5 life cycle. So that's kind of the reason I wanted to make this, is kind of go over all the amazing things about this game, but just all the things that are holding it back from like a technical standpoint, and the fact that we probably shouldn't continue VR in the future, at least not in the near future, unless we figure something out. And to make it actually comfortable for the player. I won't lie, I got a really good workout out of it, but it's kind of annoying when you're sweating into a headset where you also wear glasses. Your glasses are fogging up, and the sweat is on the headset and getting onto the lenses, so you got to clean it like every hour or something. And then the audio is just messed up, and you have wire wrapping around you, and this game takes place in a 360-degree environment where you're constantly like boom, boom, boom. And then it's also messing up the tracking on controllers, so it's not sure whether you want to use repulsors or be able to shoot some of your missiles or anything like that. So as you could tell, there was a lot of bad that I described at the beginning there, but I want to say one thing, like, to start this off. This game is awesome. Like, yeah, hands down, Iron Man VR is an amazing experience, and I'm so glad I bought the PSVR, like, years ago, so I didn't have to worry about that right now. I would say it's worth picking up. You know, if you have some extra cash to blow, just go pick it up, because it's like, I mean, these are cool experiences nonetheless. That's what I see them as. It's not so much games that I would go back and replay, although I am going to replay it one more time. They're games to just more so, like, to be able to like experience with yourself and friends. There's so much cool stuff on VR, right? And again, they're experiences. It's not like gaming, but it's experiences. Like you look at like the story. I will say this is, expect spoilers just in case, but I'm not gonna like go out of my way to spoil something. This isn't really. I'm not gonna judge the story too much, mostly because this is a VR game. The story was actually really good. Like in my mind, like I would equate it to watching like any of the three Iron Man movies. Like they were pretty good. I mean, you can't really go wrong with some villain getting back at Tony Stark for doing some stupid shit in the past. Like, I mean, that's pretty much every Iron Man story. So, and frankly, almost every Spider-Man story on screen right now. So, like, it's, the story was a lot better than something I was expecting from a VR game. From a VR standpoint, I thought what they did with the character of Gunsmith was actually really cool. But outside of that, it's just experience-wise, this was really cool. I mean, I've played, I think the best experiences I've had in VR, and I'm always gonna be leaning towards superhero stuff over all the other stuff. I've played a lot of the other stuff, including Resident Evil, but Batman Arkham VR is still my favorite because it really does make you feel like Batman. I mean, hell, you really see your reflection. Then Spider-Man Far From Home, which is a free movie tie-in, was really fucking cool because you can swing through the city and everything, and it felt so real. I was like, bro, this is next level. I didn't play it because I didn't have my PS4 all of last summer, and then when I finally got around to hooking it up when I came back and then played it, I was like, this is amazing. Like, I had a lot of my friends try it, like, all of us, just smile on our faces when you jump off that first building. That was one of the coolest experiences I've had in VR because it really does make you feel like you're swinging. And that is one game that I will always go back and play. I would be willing to drop maybe $20 on that game. Like, that's how good it was for something that was free. Like, and like, again, I don't want like a full Spider-Man experience in VR. I think that was good for what it needed to do. Maybe do a AAA version of that, sure, but like sell it for $20. We don't need a story. Like, just let people experience like being Spider-Man on a AAA scale with better technology. And then Iron Man was really cool because it had a whole like 8-10 hour story, and then it just had all these extra things. I'm not gonna go for the platinum because there's some ridiculous things, just like challenges, being able to get all the stars and stuff, and like in the races and stuff, and I'm all for that. You know, I've 100%ed all the Assassin's Creed games, Batman games, Spider-Man PS4. Those are like the three big franchises that I've 100%ed. So I'm competitive. It's just like this is VR. I get so dizzy. I got so dizzy just trying to finish the story in one day that like I don't think I'd be able to get platinum like physically. Like I would have to really space it out. At that point, it's not even fun anymore. So I've gotten all the trophies that I can get that don't really require like getting any of the stars. So I think I'm maybe missing 2 or 3 trophies at this point, and I've gotten everything else. So overall, it's a very solid game. You know, for something in VR, I wasn't expecting like a 40, 50-hour experience. So it's about maybe a 20-hour experience if you really 15, 20 hours if you decide to platinum it. And if you have the stomach to really platinum it. And I will say, like, motion sickness, it was actually really good about motion sickness. Like, I didn't feel it too much in the game. Like, I actually didn't. When the first time I get into the headset for a day, like I won't feel it until maybe 3 hours of playing. Like, and then after that, I'll have to maybe keep taking breaks every hour because you know it's getting back into it. Like I'm kind of being affected by it faster. So, motion sickness, as always, is going to be an issue with VR. No developer can completely get rid of it, but this game and Camouflage actually did a pretty good job at kind of eliminating a lot of it. When it comes to gameplay, this is fantastic. It really does feel like being Iron Man. I would still really love a AAA third-person Iron Man game, kind of like Spider-Man PS4, but this was good for those that wanted to experience being him, kind of like the Spider-Man experience. And it had a story, so just like more cool stuff on top of that. I really did like the idea of like repulsors and then just like moving your controller down to shoot like things out of your wrist. That was cool, but it doesn't always work. I often find myself shooting things out of my wrist when I want to use repulsors. So that was the one trophy I was missing when I finished the game was like defeat 250 enemies with repulsors, just because you really have to hold it like up to get that working. It just kind of feels awkward. So it really does depend on certain situations. If you're moving fast, it's really hard to think about which way you're pointing your wrist. And at that point, I think like PSVR really could have benefited from like creating like actual gloves that come with the headset instead of like forcing you to use the Move controllers from the PS3 era. I mean, yeah, they work, but like ultimately gloves would just make things a lot more natural since everything has to do with your hands in these types of games. But overall, story was really good. Gameplay-wise, I actually thought this was fantastic, and they really refined it. Like, you really do feel like Iron Man, you know, flying through the sky and everything. There's some weird parts where it's kind of like when you're on the ground, for example, or, you know, times when your suit got messed up, like, and you can't move. Like, it's kind of, you really start seeing that there's, like, a difference. You know, you remember that you're in a game because, like, in real life, you're fine. So, like, if Iron Man's on the ground in the game, like, but you're standing in real life, it's just kind of weird. And then like there's also like a lot of graphical issues. Like, again, this is not Camouflage's fault. This is just the idea that like the PS4 is not powerful. I have the Pro, but it's still not powerful enough to like be able to render the graphics that this game needs to really just like create some really, I mean, they're immersive worlds, but like to create high definition worlds. Like, honestly, I will say they look better on the TV than they do in the headset, because I was watching my roommate play for a little bit. They look better on the TV because it's like smaller. It's not rendered as big as it is in the headset, right? So like this is like Beijing, for example, like, or Shanghai, just like, it was a cool thought. I appreciated them letting you like fly around a city, but like the windows and all the reflections and all that, they don't really render in high definition until you get really close to the point where you're just like right next to the wall. So like when you're flying around, everything just looks really blurry, and like all the windows look blurry, and like it's just like terrible graphics in Shanghai specifically. And then all the other areas probably look better because they're more like rocks and terrain, and you don't really care about all that. So it's just, there's a lot of hit or miss with this stuff. But yeah, I will say, like, outside of the graphical stuff, like, I wasn't expecting anything crazy. I just want to put that out there as a reason as to why VR shouldn't continue, because we don't have the technology for this. I highly doubt the PS5 is even going to be powerful enough to like, it'll probably look better, but, like, still, like, for the level of fidelity you need for something that's in VR, like, you think about VR, like, it's got to look like what you're seeing right now. So when I look around my room, this is the level of quality I expect in a quality VR, like experience, like to really be able to, you know, once again just experience that. And we're nowhere close to that. Like, you just need a tremendous amount of power for that. It's not in Sony's best interest, and frankly customers like don't even want to pick up the PSVR. There's such a small fraction of us PlayStation fans that like have a PSVR right now. That's like it's infeasible to continue it in the next life cycle. Other than that, like the games themselves have been really like okay. So the game itself, I will say, was really cool. This is if you have a PSVR, pick this up. Like you get to be Iron Man, you get a decent story. Like it's like there's so many benefits. There's just all the downsides that I'm pointing out are really literally just more so like technology because like VR isn't advanced to the point where you can really be able to fix some of these issues. What was I gonna say? I'm unsure if this is gonna take place within the larger Marvel universe, and I hope not because there's a whole section of players that like don't have the PSVR, even on PlayStation. Like PlayStation owners like don't have the PSVR, and like they're not gonna experience this. So like it doesn't really make sense. So they definitely keep this separate. Like we don't need a sequel. Like this was great, but I think they did their job. They let you experience being Iron Man. They gave you a decent story. Overall, it's really good. Gameplay was amazing. Combat was really good. I really liked all the different options they have, but they didn't overcomplicate it because it's a VR title. So there was a bunch of upgrades, and like IGN, I think gave it like they gave it a mediocre review just because like there wasn't enough upgrade options. I'm like, dude, this is VR. Like no one wants to sit in VR for that long. I was happy that I was able to unlock everything while playing the story. Like I had enough like data or whatever it was called XP to like get all the upgrades by the end of the story. So like I was happy that that was the case because I didn't want to replay it like too much, and I also didn't want to just grind out in VR. This is different if it was a game, but this is a VR title, so it's like yes, we need limits. Like we don't need a 60-hour experience. We don't need anything longer than frankly 10 hours in VR. This game already surpassed that. So. And what I really loved was the suit options in this game. Like the amount of suits in Iron Man VR was beautiful. Like there's just so many different ones. I really wish that they had them. I don't know if they had access to the movie license or whatever, but I would have appreciated seeing like the movie suits in this game. It's one thing that's kind of weird about all these new Marvel games is like, except for Spider-Man PS4, like for whatever reason they seem to not use movie designs, which is kind of weird because like you would think that they would want to profit off of some of the stuff going. I mean, the MCU is huge; they're the #1 franchise in Hollywood, so like you would think that they would want to profit off of some of that, and like they can, dude. Like I'd be willing to drop some money on like a skin pack in say Marvel's Avengers for like all the movie skins, or like Iron Man VR just to get access to like most of Iron Man's suits from the movie. So. One other thing I didn't like, and again, it's a little bit spoiler territory. That last mission, you're playing as the Mark 1 armor, but just like super advanced, so it has the same abilities as everything else. I would have appreciated that showing up in your suit menu after you finish the game. That's the first thing I went to look for, and it wasn't there. And I was like, it was kind of weird. I was like, why? I'm sure there's a lot of players that would want to use it outside of just that mission. So that was kind of a missed opportunity, but all the other suits were incredible. I'm glad I pre-ordered because I got so many really good ones that I can use without even having to unlock all the other ones at the beginning. And then, again, upgrades were really cool. I really liked the dichotomy between Friday and Gunsmith. That was awesome. I love the idea of having them, like, as actual holograms, like, instead of just, like, voices. That just made it a little bit more immersive and left you, you were less alone. Anytime the game tried to do horror, it was actually pretty cool. I thought that was cool because, again, VR is just naturally perfect for horror. So, like, I was glad that they incorporated elements of that, but not too much where I didn't want to play the game because I don't like horror that much. If it's done right and like it's done minimally, I love it. It's awesome. I really like the segment in the cave. That was really cool and completely unexpected. Like the holographic table where you put the designs together for a suit. That was really cool. And then also Tony Stark's lab, which you're constantly coming back to. That was awesome. Like I really just appreciated the ability to explore something in between missions. A lot of people will complain that this dragged the whole thing out. Yeah, I agree. Like the story in general is just very long for a VR game, but since they, it's also VR, so I appreciated some breaks in between combat, and I just feel like since there were that many missions, it also made sense to have that much filler in between, just to give you a little bit of a physical break too, like to sit down and be able to like interact with all this stuff. Hell, there was a gym, you could get a whole workout in VR. There was a pull-up bar, a basketball machine, there were weights. What else? I saw a treadmill, and I was really hoping we could interact with that because literally, like, I could just run in place. That'd be cool, but unfortunately, you can't use that. And there's some weird things in the game where you would think you'd be able to use, but you can't. So that's just one example. There's like a boxing bag. There's just so much really cool stuff in Tony's lab that I wasn't expecting. And one other gripe I have is like camouflage. If you're listening, add this back in if you can through an update, like just so the ability to go back inside Tony's mansion, like from his garage, I think would be really cool. I think that just goes without saying, because like, yeah, there might not be much to do in that mansion, but I'd love the ability to just like go back up there and mess around with the club or things like that. But otherwise, once again, really solid experience. I would highly recommend this game, and I don't want this to get too long, but again, you should have some gameplay on the screen here, so hopefully it doesn't get too boring. But I really loved it. I recommend it if you own a PSVR. Is it worth picking up? If you don't already have a PSVR, is it worth buying a whole $300 or whatever it sells for a headset right now? It's completely up to you. Honestly, it's completely up to you. Like, I went out and bought the headset for Batman Arkham VR, a 2-hour experience. So, like, we all have different value props. Like, we all think of, like, what we buy differently. So I'm not going to tell you whether you should buy it or not. It's all on you. Look at the game. If you like what you saw in this video, if you think that this is something you would want to experience, dude, pick it up if you have some extra money to blow. And, you know, I will tell you, it's definitely worth playing if you have the VR already. So, like, if you have the VR, definitely go out and buy it. I think it's $40 right now. We'll say that might be a little too expensive for it, but I'm not going to dock them for it because, you know, it's at least it's not 60, right? It's not 60, and you do get a considerable amount for buying it. One thing I'm not sure about is if you get all the pre-order skins. It's kind of unfortunate if you don't. Hopefully it's a separate DLC pack or something you can buy. I actually haven't checked. But other than that, really solid experience. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you want me to do more like game reviews, I play a lot of different games. I love superhero stuff, but like I play everything else. I played almost all the PlayStation exclusives, all the Xbox exclusives. Like I play all the biggest franchises out there. I usually try to pick up like all the biggest AAA games, and also just like random things I want to play here and there like all the time. So I'm very well cultured in the gaming world. And I would really love to do more gaming content, but again, I have to have some interest there. Like, this is mostly a professional personal development channel, and I love doing that. But I would also love to speak about like games like this, you know, my opinions, my thoughts, and just like also just maybe predictions for the future. So maybe Miles Morales and Spider-Man PS5, just things that I'm interested in. I would really love to talk more about, but there's got to be some interest there. So leave some thoughts in the comments below. Definitely direct message me if you want to. Let me know what you think about all this, and if you really enjoyed this video, if you want more like this, definitely let me know, and I'd be happy to put more gaming content out. But other than that, really appreciate everybody's time, and I wish you all a beautiful day and night whenever you're listening to this. Peace out, guys.